Hello Trace Labs community. I am going to demo using VMware Workstation with the Trace Labs OSINT VM. We didn't have a chance to cover this in our webinar, so I'm taking the opportunity to run through it now, add some of my commentary as well. So this is a pre-recorded video that we wanted to share, but I'm going to step through it here. So here we are in VMware Workstation. And this is just to import the machine. You select the Trace Labs OVA, select Open, and you'll import the machine. And you can name it however you want for local reference there, and then also set up an area for it to, for where you want to store the VM file. So I do have that space listed. I have that under my projects, Trace Labs VM demo. And this is one of the errors that I encounter sometimes when I load it up in VMware Workstation. So sometimes it says to click retry to relax the OVF specification and virtual hardware compliance checks, and to try the import again. Or you can click cancel to cancel the import. I've retried this each time that this error comes up. We can look into what generates that error, but a lot of times hitting retry will get that imported. So here it is importing without any errors so far. For the sake of the recording, I had that skip forward a little bit as well. So I just kind of skipped forward because it does take a little bit of time to import. So here we are with the virtual machine ready. But here's where you can get the chance to check the settings that you have with that virtual machine. So here we see that the memory is only at 2 gigabytes, so we have the opportunity to open that up and set that a little bit higher. So those are the defaults when I've loaded it in. So I usually increase that to 8 gigabytes. Processors at 2 I haven't had problems with. But you can always adjust that. Network adapter, you can set that as NAT, which is the default. And again, you can have that. You can toggle the options for connecting it power on. If you want to have it as a bridge network, host only, if you want to do anything custom or spiffy, you can do that as well. Usually NAT is the default there. We'll explore some additional options there as well. This is where you can change the virtual machine name, and that is for your reference. That isn't the name of the machine within the environment. So if you want to change the machine in the environment, there's a different way to do that. This is just for how it's referenced within VMware Workstation. So I've kept it at the default there. Here are some of the folder sharing that you can do. You can share files between your host machine and your virtual machine. Some individuals find that useful. It does put some of the data at risk, so if you really want to have the machine isolated, it's recommended to not have that folder sharing going on. So we generally leave that disabled, but this is the spot where you can always check that. Here are some options for when you're using snapshots. You can use the snapshots that when you power it off, you can just have it turn off. You can also have it to where when you shut down the machine, it just reverts to a clean state. And that might be handy to use in a CTF, is that when you power it off, it's just going to revert that. Now, if you accidentally lose power or shut down the machine by accident there, it will revert and just lose all your data. You can have it ask you as well, which would be a handy step to take, that when you do close your machine out at the end of a CTF, it asks what you want to do. You can also have it revert to a previous snapshot there, have that option to just go back to that clean slate. So that's where those would be as options. Some guest isolation as well. I found that by default, you have the drag and drop and copy and paste turned on. Those can be handy features, and this is where you'd want to check that. Again, if you really want to have your machine isolated, you probably don't want to have the drag and drop and copy and paste on. But if you're confused as to why that function is not working, this might be a spot to look for it within VMware Workstation. So I have those turned on because that was the default. lots of other items in there as well. So once we're set, we can go and we can just power on the virtual machine. This usually takes a little bit of time. I'm going to kind of accelerate it for the sake of the recording. And that's where, as you see here, you can enter the full screen mode. And it does give you that handy little reference there that if you need your keyboard and mouse back to release the input, you can press Control-Alt. So that's shown here. So this machine will boot up. I think I have that accelerated a little bit more. And VMware Workstation is pretty good at telling you what you need to do. To log in, the default is OSINT and OSINT, all lowercase. And you can get logged in, and you'll see the Trace Labs environment start to come up. So once you're in, some of the first steps that I like to take, this will be showcasing where you can do and create a snapshot. So here I've created a snapshot as an example of just booted the system. Made a spelling error there, but just booted, no updates yet. So I can take that snapshot. Not the most useful snapshot, but it is an example. Then we can run the updater. We'll ask for your password. Again, that's just OSINT in lowercase. And those updates will run. And now I believe I skipped ahead a couple of times for the sake of the recording. So once those updates take their time and run, then let's see here. Alright, so now that we have the updates done, this is the second part of the video here, and you can see where we take a snapshot. And so this is a useful snapshot to have, where you have the post update and you list the date on there. So then if I ever revert to it, I know that, hey, these are the updates as of the 29th, and take a snapshot. This is a good spot to be at before you do your work. So here you'll see I accelerated into having done some OSINT work. Here I researched Demon Decoded, which is another member of our Trace Labs core team. So these are all just kind of some humorous made-up pieces of intelligence here, in which Demon Decoded is working on a screenplay, the intel that you have on him. So maybe at the end of a competition, the end of the CTF, you have a lot of information about them, a lot of Facebook tabs open, information on their lower back tattoo, and some relevant information as to proving that they're not a robot. So you might want to clear all that information out. More than just deleting the information there, you might have all these records, all these logs that are in your machine in order to keep from contaminating your environment there if you do move on to another competition or another intelligence case. You can make sure that there's absolutely no traces left on your system there by just reverting back to your previous snapshot. So here we go, select go to snapshot, and that will take us back to that post update of 9/29/20. So you can select yes to revert to that, and you'll see it restoring that virtual machine state. This doesn't take very long because there wasn't a lot of actual data that was changed. Sometimes this takes a bit of time in order to go back in time. And here you'll see we have that snapshot up and running for our post update that we did on the 29th. This would also be a good state to refer back to, and then if you progress in time and you load this one up and you say, well, it's no longer the 29th of September, it's now the middle of October. Load this one up, run your updates, make sure everything's clean and updated there the way you like it, and then take another snapshot and make that snapshot say, here's the updates as of middle of October. And once you have that snapshot in place, you can go and you can delete the update snapshot from the 29th of September. And then you would always have a clean slate that has the latest updates and that you can revert back to.